Joining us right now to weigh in is Harvard Law Professor Emeritus and author of the book, Trumped Up, Criminalization of Political Endangers Democracy, Alan Dershowitz. Alan, good to see you as always. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much. You know, my new book is The Case Against Impeaching Trump. Trumped Up's my old book, so thank you for mentioning it.
Well, you've written a number of books. The
Right.
Case Against Impeaching Trump was your most recent, and then you took a look at election interference as well. I want to ask you about that, because is there anything you think can be done to regulate this kind of interference?
Oh, absolutely. That's why from day one I said we don't need a special counsel. We need a nonpartisan expert commission like the 9/11 Commission to look into the entire issue of interference with our elections. Remember, what's going on with Facebook isn't criminal, so Mueller has no jurisdiction over it. But it's very serious. The indictments now in the Southern District of New York against lobbyists have nothing to do with Russian interference, but it's very serious. We don't need a special counsel. We need experts looking into this and figuring out how to make sure that foreign governments don't interfere with our elections. There is a possibility of regulation consistent with the First Amendment, but it's difficult and will require a kind of nuanced approach. So the worst approach is kind of the blunderbuss approach of a special prosecutor behind closed doors. And the best approach is what Great Britain and Israel and other countries do: set up royal commissions to investigate the problem and come up with solutions that are broad-based. That's what we need to do with Facebook.
Yeah, and it's not just this issue that brings these social media executives to Washington. It's also the fact that Congress is saying that they are censoring conservative ideas. Kevin McCarthy, the majority leader, has been out aggressively saying, look, I'm noticing that you are actually editing out or censoring conservative ideas. We'll see what comes out of this. Any way to regulate any of this?
There is a way of regulating it. Remember that these enormous organizations like Facebook and Google are almost quasi-governmental. They have such fantastic power and can influence.
A lot of influence, yeah.
A lot of influence. First of all, it ought to start with self-regulation. But there has to be the possibility of laws and rules being enacted consistent with the First Amendment. Congress has to pass the laws, but it's not the right institution to get the information because it's so partisan.
Right.
Having a nonpartisan expert commission, that's what we did after 9/11. We learned so much from that commission. We passed good laws, good regulations, and we haven't had another 9/11. What we're worried about is we're going to have another 2016 in 2018. We're seeing that there are still efforts to interfere with our elections. We have to stop that, and we have to do it aggressively and prospectively.
Let me switch gears, ask you about Judicial Watch now obtaining new emails that it says reveal that FBI agent Peter Strzok insisted on retaining his security clearance before moving to special counsel Robert Mueller's team. How significant do you see this? I mean, he's had this security clearance even as this entire investigation has gone on.
Well, he should have recused himself. He should have recused himself from day one. He knew before anybody else knew what his biases were, that he was out to stop the election of Donald Trump, that he needed an insurance policy against doing that. When you have somebody with those attitudes, those aren't just political preferences. Those are goals, illegal, improper goals, trying to influence the election, putting a thumb of FBI agents on the scale of the elections. He should have recused himself. He should never, ever have been allowed to remain in the FBI while he himself was being investigated in this way. This is a real problem, a real issue, and I don't think it's being addressed sufficiently.
Alan, where do you think this goes? Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe, all of this abuse of power that we saw at the top, very top of the FBI during the 2016 election?
Well, the one thing it doesn't happen, it doesn't go into a Mueller report. Mueller is going to try to protect these guys. That's why, again, the IG, the Inspector General's report, was objective. And what we needed was a nonpartisan expert commission that could look into Strzok. We're not going to hear much about these influences when we see the Mueller report, because Mueller has an interest in creating an illusion of objectivity around his investigation. And the last thing he wants to do is expose the kind of subjectivity that he himself allowed in the investigation by not having Strzok recuse himself. Now, to his credit, Mueller struck out of the investigation as soon as he learned about the facts.
Yeah.
But that was way late into the game.
Way
Strzok
late.
should have recused himself on his own initially.
It sounds like what that would be exactly that, an illusion, and not actually objectivity. Meanwhile, speaking of Robert Mueller, I mean, there was a report recently that he wants to give Tony Podesta, a former lobbyist, immunity if he gives him information about Paul Manafort. Now we know that the former lobbyist Tony Podesta and former Obama White House counsel Greg Craig are reportedly under investigation by prosecutors in New York after a referral from the special counsel Mueller's office. CNN first reported the probe. Your reaction to this?
Well, these are good people, and whether they did anything wrong should be determined. But again, it shows we didn't need a special counsel. The special counsel isn't investigating these guys. The case is in the Southern District of New York. Every one of these cases could have been handled by a U.S. attorney's office. Why did we have to spend so many millions of dollars and bring on additional staff? It's going to end up only in a report and some low-hanging fruit indictments. And the way in which Mueller is proceeding, trying to squeeze Manafort, trying to get him to testify against Trump. Even Judge Ellis, who's presiding over the trial, says this trial's not about Manafort. It's about trying to get Manafort to sing or compose about Donald Trump and other higher-ups. You know, I used to teach my students in first year, if you're going to commit a crime in America, commit it with someone more important than you are so you can turn them in. They can't turn you in. That's the way the Mueller probe is operating, squeezing people at the low end to try to get people at the high end. And what you get often in that situation is false testimony, composing rather than just singing.
Yeah, but it's also like a really good way to muddy the waters, because most Americans out there watching this don't realize that all of these charges against Paul Manafort are from years ago and have nothing to do with the Trump campaign.
That's right. And the goal, however, is to get him to have to make a choice between dying in prison or testifying against his former associates. And most people prefer to testify than die in prison, even if it means exaggerating stories and making up stories. That's why Judge Ellis was so critical of the prosecution. He didn't throw it out because there was no legal basis in his view, but he was very critical of the motivations of the prosecutor in going after Manafort in this way. And we should all be critical of that. And every civil libertarian should be concerned that this technique can be used against you, your loved ones, people you know, people on your side of the political spectrum. Any
expectation in terms of when the Mueller investigation comes to a close? Real quick.
Well, I think it either has to end very quickly before the midterms or it has to wait until after the midterms. The worst thing would be to release a report within a month of the midterm elections.
Right, sure. Alan, good to see you this morning, as always.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alan Dershowitz. And your new book, The Case Against Impeaching Trump, is available everywhere, and there it is. Alan Dershowitz.